So my weak section, like a lot of people who take up CAT, was DILR. So when I went into quant, that thought was lingering in my mind that I've completely screwed up my DILR and it really wasn't going to matter. I saw the time of 24 odd minutes on the clock and I had solved 4 questions in quant. At that point in time, I still remember. So there is this Tamil movie where the protagonist says that he is not good at certain things, but when it comes to a particular sport, he is the best at it. So
Hi Aravind, thank you so much for joining us today and congratulations on scoring 99.87 percentile in CAT.
hello, thank you, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, firstly, can you tell us a little bit about your profile, your educational background, and when you started preparing for CAT?
So I did my BTech in chemical engineering from IIT Madras, and after that I worked in an agrochemical MNC in the project management division for a couple of years, and I started my preparation for CAT in the month of August last year. So I joined Krakow pretty early last year, but then I was able to start preparation only in the month of August. So, so as far as Krakow is concerned, I think it has helped me a lot when it comes to the for VARC. I used a lot of their resources when, especially for verbal ability. I used to solve all the para jumbles and uh, like para summaries which are over there, and also I like the way how Krakow gamified their portal as such when it comes to offering you titles like novice, professional, etc. So that was something which I like, which motivates you to solve even more to maintain your streak. And as far as DLR is concerned, once again I went through all the video series and also utilized the study room to practice concepts, because DLR was a slightly weaker section of mine. And when it comes to quant, I think I utilize quant. Quark was the most helpful when it comes to quant, because I think really when it comes to quant, it's probably unparalleled from what I have seen over the years. So it's pretty solid in that front. And once again, for sectionals as well, pretty great set of sectionals. Yeah, that's about it. So I started in the month of August. So I
Okay.
still remember, like, my first mock, I solved like 2 sets in DLR. So I think I would have given close to 50 marks in the run up to my preparation. And based on the amount of time which I spent analyzing, it varied depending on sections mainly. So for verbal, I used to spend close to easily 3 times the time of the mock. If it's a 1 hour mock, I used to spend close to 3 hours analyzing each and every option, seeing why an option is right as well as seeing why the other three are wrong. So that was the most important aspect when it comes to verbal ability and reading comprehension as well. So, and for DLR, it was once again the same. I used to try out the sets once again right from scratch, and irrespective of how much time it took, say, even sometimes it takes even like 30-45 minutes for me to crack the set, but I make sure that I do it on my own in the first sitting. And for quant, usually it used to be shorter, say 1 to 1.5 hours. I just used to look at ways to solve. I think when it comes to dash cats, that's what it was really helpful, because you could see the analysis right after you finish your mock. So I learned a lot of tricks and from Maruti himself based on his analysis. So that was how I did my analysis.
Were there any instances where you had low mock scores and you were demotivated? So, how did you, if yes, how did you handle that?
So talking about low percentiles, so it was, I think, in the month of October, and I guess like with a month to go for CAT, and there was a mock where I scored a 40 percentile in VARC. I knew it was bad, but I didn't expect it to be that bad. So that's when I realized, okay, I need to buckle up, not be complacent. And then I analyzed it, and that helped me a lot. I mean, even though that also showed me that the fickle nature of mocks in general. So the next week after that, I scored a 99.9 in verbal. So I think it's beneficial for candidates to not get demotivated over mock scores, because even if you are getting great mock scores throughout your mocks, it's the day which that matters. So learn from your mocks and then utilize it slowly, like work on the process as such, and like don't focus on the results at least during the mock stage, and keep tweaking your process. That's what I would suggest to people.
Great. So, can you tell us what was your weak section and how did you improve in that section? What was your strategy in that?
So my weak section, like a lot of people who pick up CAT, was DLR. So initially, when I started with my mocks, I used to solve only a couple of sets. So that's when I had this friend of mine who was extremely good at DLR. So I asked him like how does he used to solve close to 4 5 sets, and I asked him what secrets he has to share about it. So it was pretty simple what he mentioned actually. So initially, I used to spend close to 6 to 8 minutes to and then decide whether I'm solving that set or not. Instead, and I was missing out on a lot of easy sets which come to us in. Instead, what I used to do was I used to spend the first couple of minutes reading through it and seeing if it's something which can be solved in say 8 minutes. And if that's the case, I'll go with it. If it's something out of my comfort zone, or if it seems like something which uh, will take a lot of time, has a lot of cases, I would skip it and come back to it at the end. So that's something I learned. And also, when it comes to DLR, I think there is no substitute for practice. The more sets you practice, the more you know whether you need to attempt that set or not, like, or how complicated the set can turn out to be. And once again, analyzing mocks is something which helps you a lot. You need to once again, after the mock, you need to see whether the order in which you attempted was correct, or whether you once again missed out on any easy sets. You need to make sure you at least read almost all the sets and then choose the ones which will fetch you the maximum marks. So that's the approach which I followed towards them. So for DLR strategy assess, I just used to solve a lot of questions from the study room and make sure that I get comfortable with certain topics, which, for example, like Venn diagrams, which are recurring topics, arrangements, etc. So once you solve a lot of them, there is a good chance that you won't mess it up in the actual exam. And that helps a lot in DA as well. Like people don't practice GA generally, but then there are certain tricks which you can utilize in DA. So practice helps a lot.
Great. So, can you tell us about the strategy you followed in other two sections as well, especially quant?
So since I have just a couple of points as far as VARC is concerned. So the first point is to not get emotionally attached to topics in RCs as such. So I had this problem where I didn't really enjoy reading RCs about art, so I just used to skip them, even though they could be pretty easy in nature. I just had this mental block in mind to never go for such RCs. And the other mistake which I used to do was to want to attempt all the questions in VRC. So a lot of people have this misconception that in VRC you need to attempt a lot of questions. So you need to focus on your accuracy as well. If you feel like you're not able to get the gist of a particular question, it's better to move on rather than spend another 2 3 minutes wasting time on it. So I used to keep a timer of say 8 minutes per RC, and if I overshot it, I used to go to the next RC irrespective of where I stood. So wherever questions posed a lot of challenge, I just used to skip them for the time being, and then used to come back later. And then say keep 10 minutes for verbal ability. So in case RCs got really tough, if multiple RCs were very tough, I used to go to verbal ability, solve them, and come back to RCs.
Okay.
So quant is a section where I was good at, but under time control, I was not able to maximize my marks, because in order to get a good percentile, it's invariable that you need to maximize the section which you're really good at. That gives you a good shot. So when I started writing mocks in quant, first the initial 1 month I spent on covering a lot of topics, going through all the video series, and then solving booklets, as well as um, taking out questions in the study room. So when I started solving, I used to go question by question instead of. So when I go question by question, there used to be questions which I know how to solve, but they don't click to you at that point of time. But I still used to spend a lot of time. When I check out my time analysis, there used to be certain questions where I spend like 7 8 minutes, which could have been utilized to solve 3 4 questions. So around October, my scores started plateauing a lot, even though I did plug in my gaps when it comes to understanding of theory. So So once again, at that point of time, there was this other friend of mine who told me to start following the approach where you leave questions if you feel that it will take up time or which is not in a comfort zone. So at that point of time, I still remember for the next 1 week, I used to take a couple of quant sectionals every day and just practice on the art of leaving questions, if you may call it that way, and make sure that I attempt the maximum number of questions with the maximum accuracy possible. So with that, my score started really going up, and that helped me a lot in the actual CAT as well. So making sure you don't miss out. So once again, it's all about ROI. So where the return on your investment of time is what is the most crucial aspect over here. And another tip which I would give is to make sure that you read up on your weak topics as well. So initially I was really weak when it comes to geometry, so I gave a lot of emphasis to it and make sure that I at least get to a point where I can solve the easy medium questions. I mean, you need not solve the difficult questions as well, but you should always make sure that you can solve all the easy medium questions of most topics if you want to maximize your quant. Yeah, so one like it's a very like random tip. So in general, I have noticed in a lot of mocks as well as in the actual CAT, a lot of geometry questions can actually be solved through options. So
Okay.
so since the approach doesn't matter in the actual exam, so make sure that you do have some tips and tricks up your sleeves. Like say, for example, if a number is inside log, it shouldn't be negative. And once again, you can so there will be a lot of geometry questions which has pi involved in it. So if you calculate the approximate range of the answer, in a lot of questions, the other three won't even be close to the actual answer. The side will be 4 centimeter, and three options would go beyond 4 centimeter for a length which is inside a particular square or something. So that's something which has helped you a lot in a lot of mocks. So you can keep creating a repertoire of such tricks which you can potentially utilize in the exam. So that's something which.
Great. So can you tell us how was it on the CAT day? Like how was did it go as per your strategy? Like what surprises did CAT throw?
So talking about the CAT day, I was in the second slot. So there was a friend of mine who wrote the first slot. So I mean, obviously, someone who was writing safely, I asked him. I was tempted to ask him, so I asked him how was it. So he said that the verbal section was really difficult, but the DLR was pretty manageable, and quant was as usual. So I went. I was happy on hearing that the DLR section was manageable, since that was more of my weaker section. So verbal went as usual. I just followed my strategy of not spending a lot of time on questions which are dicey in nature. And then came DLR. So once again, I was pretty confident of executing my strategy of like reading all the sets for 2 minutes each and solving the easy questions right away. So I saw the first set, couple of minutes spent reading. I said, okay, no, this is not something which I'm solving. Second set, same thing. Third set, same thing. And I exhausted all the 6 sets, and I could not pick out an easy set to start solving. So at that point of time, I didn't know whether it was just me who was facing that difficulty. So I started with a 6 question set because I thought, okay, why not? Let's just go at it. And it took me a lot of time to solve it. And in the end, I had 10 attempts in DILR. So when that happened, I wasn't even sure if all the 10 were correct. I mean, in the end, it turned out to be correct, but so it had a very bad impact on my mind when I went into quant. So I thought I might not even cross the sectional cutoff of quant with such a lot. I mean, it's not something which the number of attempts was lower than my worst DLR performance up till that date when it comes to 2 hour examination. So when I went into quant, that thought was lingering in my mind that I've completely screwed up my DLR, and it really wasn't going to matter whether I do quant well or not. So I saw the time of 24 odd minutes on the clock, and I had solved 4 questions in quant, which is basically 16 minutes spent on 4 questions, which is completely against my ideal of not wasting time in quant. So at that point in time, I still remember. So there is this Tamil movie where the protagonist says that he is not good at certain things, but when it comes to a particular sport, he is the best at it. So
Okay.
so that was true for me when it comes to quant. Like I like to think that I'm pretty good at quant. So I had this, and also there was this Peaky Blinders song which I used to listen to. There was this song called "So Close" where he talks about how hard it is to be so close to something and not getting it. So that was like all that came to my mind in like a 5 to 10 second time gap, and I regrouped myself and started doing quant with a new vigor. So I ended up solving 16 questions in the next 24 minutes, and I ended up with a 99.9 in quant. So I think the best part is to like never give up, irrespective. In the end, I ended up with a close to 99 in DILR, when I actually thought I wouldn't cross the sectional cutoff while writing the exam. So I think the key is to like never give up at any point of time, and you never know what's going to happen. So might as well put in your best effort. Treat all the three sections as three different tests and do your best in each of them.
Brilliant. So can you tell us what were some of the mistakes you've done in the initial days of your CAT preparation, and how did you learn from them?
So I think one mistake is probably not following a lot of stuff which I said previously initially. So I didn't analyze this properly. I just used to give them and just shrug my mistakes away, nots. And also I didn't analyze questions which I did correctly. I think that's a mistake which a lot of people do. So like please make sure that you go through the solutions of questions which you did correctly as well. I mean, there is a very good chance that you might end up finding very good ways of solving it, and very quickly. I still remember in a lot of dash cats, actually it helped me like going through the quant analysis right away. I used to take 2-3 minutes to just solve it, and the length of the video would be 1 minute. I would be like, how did they solve this in 1 minute? So those are things which will help you eventually. If you save 2 minutes, that's just another 3 marks scored. So make sure you analyze that properly. And another thing is to not, once again, not get emotionally attached to any question. Don't let your ego get to you. Like some people find certain topics really challenging, and they like, for example, I used to like permutation combinations and probability, and I used to like, no matter what the difficulty of the question was, I used to always want to solve them, and that backfires a lot. I mean, there are some questions which is not possible to solve quickly, the way you want it. So you should skip them at that point, even if it's your favorite topic. And similarly with the DLR, I mean, you can be brilliant at Venn diagrams, but there are some sets where there is a lot of missing data you need to, and there are so many variables. At that point, it's not prudent to waste more than say 12-13 minutes solving a Venn diagram set where there are two other sets in which you're not that comfortable but can be solved in 6 minutes. So that's a mistake which you need to not do. And another like, it's not a mistake, but I think which helps a lot is to have someone who has the same goals as you. I mean, I had two friends mainly. So one friend was there since the start. I used to discuss all the mocks with them, like right from VARC to quant. We used to analyze over phone for say 2-3 hours. So that helps a lot in knowing strategies which other people follow. You can incorporate them in your mocks and see if that works for you. So I think peer learning is something which you can make use of
Right.
when it comes to CAT preparation as well. It's not something which will help you just in your MBA. So you can start that right away.
Great. So now, according to you, what was that most important thing that actually helped you improve your scores?
So when it comes to VARC, the most important thing which helped me improve my score is that initially I used to select the right option instead of select the right option as well as eliminate the other three. So after a point, I started doing questions where I used to eliminate all the incorrect options and as well as select the right option. So in that way, you don't go wrong. A lot of times you just read the first option and you think it's correct and you go for it, whereas it'll be missing a very small detail which will be there in the third option. So that's one tip which I would give when it comes to VRC. And for DLR, what helped me improve my score the most was to not spend a lot of time on sets initially and miss out on the sets towards the end. Make sure you read all the sets and practice a lot. Make sure that a lot of sets which you see are familiar to you, which comes only through practice. And for quant, once again, I would say once you cover your topics, you need to work on your speed and once again you need to learn how to leave questions. So I think that's about it. Like you can follow, like people call it the ABC approach, where
Right.
initially you do questions which you think you can solve within a minute, and then mark for review questions which you think it can be solved in 2 minutes, and completely leave questions which you think will take more than say 3 minutes, or for the end once you complete the A and B approach. So that approach helped me to improve my marks by at least, I would say, like 25 to 30% for sure. Another mistake, I think it's not CAT specific as such. So one mistake which I did was not being on top of current affairs. I mean, that's something if I had done alongside my CAT preparation, that would have served as something which is apart from CAT prep, which is something enjoyable at that point of time, as well as it will help you a lot once you score a very good percentage in CAT for your interview preparation. That's something which I think a lot of people miss out on. Just pure focus on CAT. You can have it as a pastime, just reading about current affairs, forming opinions around the important happenings which are happening in the country as well as in the globe, and follow business news. That will eventually help you once you secure a good percentile in CAT.
Great. So finally, are there any tips that you'd like to give the future CAT aspirants?
So tips to future CAT aspirants, I would say that you should have a lot of fun preparing for CAT. That's the most important part. You should enjoy the process. I mean, it doesn't matter where you end up, but if you enjoy the process and you make sure that you execute what you want to do, I'm sure that you will end up doing fine. So that's something which I have to say to CAT aspirants, and all the best for those who are preparing for next year's CAT.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Arvind. That was some really useful advice. Thank you for your time, and yeah, thank you so much for
Yes,
your
thank
time.
you. Yeah, sure. See you. Bye.